This is Phil Rostek speaking. This is part 6 of a piece we're calling My Life. And we ended up with discussions about my two important teachers last time, Robert Lepper and Bruce Breland. I should contextualize some of those remarks here before we go too far. I had moved out of, my second year I moved out of Marge Graduate House where I was uncomfortable, and I just moved into my studio, which was a little scary. But I'm not sure actually what happened. Over the summer of my first year, I started thinking, what am I really going to do? And I was sitting at home, being a little bit awkward there, not doing anything, and being underfoot a little much. Towards the end of the summer, I decided what I would do is wear white tie and tails to school, and I would get out of the basement and I would take on the outward environment of the university and make it my work. I took literally the page from Marshall McLuhan's book, The Medium is the Massage, message, that was dedicated to the work of John Cage, who said, theater takes place all the time, no matter where one is, and it's the job of the artist to convince people this is the case. I decided that's what I'm going to do. And so I decided, how am I going to do that? I want to look like Philippe Entremont looked when he wore white tie and tails and played the piano. I was going to do this now formal. And I would take art and life together as a unison, formally. And that is the thing that direction I took. And my mother actually supported this, and we drove to Highway Tuxedo on Route 22. Oh, it was on Route 30. It was on Route 30, and they used the name Nelson Briles there. He was a pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Anyway, they rented and sold formal wear, and we purchased white tie and tails, and it was tailored to spec, the most formal clothes that a male person could wear. And my mother loved the way I looked, and I liked the way I looked in those clothes too. And when I returned to school, it made a big impact when they saw me wearing those clothes, and then they saw me wearing it the next day, and the day after that. I was supported in that effort. Orville Wensand liked it. Other teachers at school responded to it. Lepper and Breland knew what it meant. When I showed up at Robert Lepper's class and sat there, didn't say a thing, he left class, and out of the side of his mouth, he said, "Philip, you're all dressed up." And so that was my solution, was to get out of the basement where nobody cared and to engage the world formally. A curious thing happened. Walking through campus, a person came up to me and said, "Your studio is in Margaret Morrison." I said, "That's right." He said, "I have a key to the front door. If you'd like to have it, I'm graduating from school. I have no use for it. You can just have it if you want it." And I said, "Okay." I have no idea if that person was prompted to do that or how that occurred. But all of a sudden, I was living in Margaret Morrison building. We moved my dad helped me move in a roll-away bed and I put it behind two large-scale paintings so that it kind of concealed where I was sleeping. And and I had a key to the front door, and I would get up in the morning and go up the back kind of alleyway between Donner Hall and Margaret Morrison, walk up there, walk right into Donner Hall. That's where I would shower and get ready to put on my tails every day, and came out. Nobody saw me coming or going. I just appeared by magic on campus, and it was part of my work. I coupled that with a thesis that I worked out in my own mind. I said art had 3 R's: ritual, remnants, and reminiscing. And I started to do kind of conceptual pieces where I would go to the West End Bridge, pour milk into the river below. My friend Roger Dumas, who had come into graduate school, became a good friend, great painter. I used to go to his studio and drink B&G wine and listen to Mahler with him. He agreed to photograph. We got an old camera from Goodwill or someplace, and but he could take slides, and learned how to use it, and so we documented some of my work that way. And it was all based on concept work, wearing the tails. If it was a nice fall day, I would just leave the studio, walk through Shenley Park and the leaves that were turning color, and experience my life to the hilt. And it would be called a fine art walk. This is the kind of thing that I started to do. The highs were very high, and there were some lows because a lot of people didn't like it and thought it was a derivative of like a Duchampian thing that was copycatting something. But Mr. Lepper and Mr. Breland backed me up, and I continued to do my work. Actually, Bruce Breland, towards the end of my tenure there at Carnegie Mellon, we had become really good friends, and so I started doing mail art with Bruce. Nobody knew what mail art was about in 72, 73, but we did, and Bruce would photograph me putting things into a mailbox as I wore the tails. He also invited me to participate with his work, where he was accumulating the Museum of Modern Air. That's what he called it. We went down to the Carnegie Museum, and in front of the wonderful Van Gogh painting that they had, I collected air in front of that painting in an apothecary jar, wearing my tails. Bruce took a Polaroid picture, and then we went back up to Skibo, and it was one of the happiest days of my life. We could never get away with those things now. In the museum, we couldn't do it, I'm sure, but we could then. Bruce was wearing a jacket that said Carnegie Mellon. I was dressed up. The guard really didn't know what was going on there, and so it only took a few minutes, and we did it. We accomplished it, and so the world was different. I could never live in my studio in Margaret Morrison anymore and shower in Donner Hall. The security around those institutions, including the art building, is much different now. But back in the 70s, there was a lot more freedom to do the kind of thing that I was doing that involved somewhere between a life commitment and monkey business. But I was serious about it, and I think that some of the pieces that we did actually it satisfied my need to create something that I thought was important, and it was at the high water mark of my expectations. My mother was a part of it when she helped me buy the tales. Mr. Lepper supported it, and so did Mr. Breland. A lot of it was possible because my friend Roger Dumas contributed his expertise in taking pictures and capturing events that I came up with. And I think that I had an influence also on his artwork and his paintings. It's a testament to the quality of individuals that came to Carnegie Mellon and that I knew there. Another person of influence was the writer Ralph Ashworth. Wanted to be a novelist. He was an undergraduate, but a very wonderful and talented person who was doing well in the English department. My friend Shalom had engaged a physicist to do dimming devices for his gallery ideas, Paul Szymanski. And Paul had a sister who lived in Oakland, and there was 3 girls that lived in that apartment. One of them was Marcia, who would later become my wife. Marcia especially liked Fred Astaire, and I think that she liked me wearing the tails because it reminded her of that great deco period of black and white and the films that she liked very much. Marcia was a very good dancer, and she liked Fred Astaire especially. And Marcia has been a supporter of my artwork in a selfless kind of way up to now. And she's been a part of everything that I've been able to do, including my life, where she worked for 46 years at the Fine Art Library, University of Pittsburgh, and it was through that insurance that I was able to have a heart transplant in 2008. So not only is my life of imagination in debt to Marcia, but my very life is also something that persists because of my relationship with her. Marcia also turned me on to the St. Francis of Assisi when she bought me the Little Flowers of St. Francis, the Fioretti, at a book sale at the Frick Fine Art Library where she worked. And after I kind of finished my work at Carnegie Mellon, that became a big factor in my return to individual expression. Let's pause here before we move forward.